Welcome back to Silent Conspiracy. Tonight, we journey to one of India. As darkest mornings, when the sacred river became a scene of horror that shocked the nation and exposed uncomfortable truths about poverty, tradition, and the treatment of the dead. Picture this. January 13th, 2015, Unnao district, Uttar Pradesh. Villagers approached the banks of the Ganges for their morning rituals when they noticed something horrifying. Dogs and crows are feeding on human remains. Vultures circle overhead. As the sun rises, the full scale of the nightmare becomes clear. Over 100 decomposed bodies, mostly children, and unmarried girls, are floating in the sacred river, piled up along the shoreline like driftwood. Within 48 hours, the number reaches 104, turning a holy waterway into a mass graveyard overnight. This is the Unnao Ganga mystery of 2015, a case that sparked nationwide outrage, political accusations of conspiracy, and revealed the brutal economics of death in India, where poverty dictates. Whether you receive cremation or get dumped like garbage into the holiest river on earth, tonight we explore what really happened on the banks of the Ganges. On the morning of January 13, 2015, villagers in Unnao district noticed an unusual commotion near River Ganga cremation site on the banks of the Ganges, located approximately 60 kilometers southwest of Lucknow. Crows, vultures, and stray dogs were gathering in massive numbers, feeding on something along the riverbank. When locals investigated, they discovered a horrifying sight. Human corpses in various states of decomposition floating in a canal connected to the Ganges and scattered along the shore. The bodies were badly decayed, many reduced to skeletal remains wrapped in white muslin cloth. Some showed signs of partial cremation. Others appeared to have been simply dumped into the waterhole. By Tuesday evening, authorities had recovered 30 bodies. But as the sun rose Wednesday morning, the true scale became apparent. Officials using JCB machines to fish decomposed remains from the riverbed retrieved a total of 104 bodies. Most were identified as children and unmarried girls based on their size and the traditional white wrapping used for water burials. The district administration cordoned off the area as the grisly recovery operation continued. Sumia Agarwal, the district magistrate, told reporters, "It seems that as the water level has receded in the river, these bodies have surfaced. We're trying to figure out the reason. We have sent a team of doctors to collect samples from bodies to investigate the case." Authorities quickly offered what they claimed was a straightforward explanation. These were bodies of people whose families could not afford proper Hindu cremation, so they had been immersed in the Ganges according to traditional practices. Kanpur Inspector General of Police Ashutosh Pandey stated definitively, "The bodies belonged to the families who could not afford a decent cremation, as per Hindu traditions, and dumped them in the river." This explanation drew on established Hindu funeral practices. In Hinduism, the Ganges is considered sacred, and many believe immersing a body in its waters ensures spiritual salvation. Certain categories of deceased, including unwed girls, young boys, pregnant women, and saints, are traditionally not cremated, but instead wrapped in cloth and floated in the river. Additionally, poverty prevents countless families from affording wood and other cremation expenses, which can cost thousands of rupees. According to Himanshu Sharma, a priest at Delhi's Nigambad Ghat, many of the approximately 500 bodies brought daily to that cremation ground are turned away as unfit for cremation based on traditional restrictions. These bodies must be disposed of by water burial instead. The theory suggested that these 104 bodies had been buried in shallow graves along the riverbank, or directly immersed in the Ganges over time. When water levels dropped significantly in January 2015, the buried remains were exposed and washed into the river, where previously sunken bodies floated to the surface, creating the sudden mass appearance. Additional SP Ram Kishan told media, "It is likely that several of these bodies were buried near the banks of the Ganga, and the force of the water could have opened the graves, thus washing away the bodies with it." The district's subdivisional magistrate Saryu Prasad echoed this, saying, "The water has receded, which may be the reason why the bodies have floated up." Because of advanced decomposition, traditional postmortems were impossible. Officials collected DNA samples from 81 bodies for forensic profiling, though it's unclear if this testing was ever completed or what results showed. Rather than conduct individual funerals, authorities made the controversial decision to bury all 104 bodies together at the riverbank. This decision, made ostensibly for public health reasons, sparked protests from both local residents, and political opposition who viewed the mass burial as inhumane treatment of the dead. The Bharatiya Janata Party (BJP) State President Laxmikant Bajpai visited the site and protested the inhumane treatment being meted out to the dead, demanding proper last rites. Meanwhile, volunteers from Ganga Bachao Andolan, Save Ganga movement led by Ramji Tripathi, began a sit-in protest, condemning the dumping of bodies in the Ganges and demanding action to stop river pollution. Almost immediately, the incident became entangled in fierce political controversy. Azam Khan, a cabinet minister in the ruling Samayawadi Party government of Uttar Pradesh, made an explosive accusation. His political opponent, Sakshi Maharaja of the opposition BJP, had orchestrated the entire incident to defame the state government. Khan publicly stated, "I have come to know that Sakshi Maharaja brought a truck loaded with bodies to the spot and unloaded it into the river to defame the state government." This shocking claim suggested the bodies were unaccumulated naturally, but were deliberately dumped in a single, coordinated act of political sabotage. The accusation was never substantiated with evidence, and Sakshi Maharaji denied any involvement. However, Khan's statement revealed the intense political stakes surrounding the incident. The Akhilesh Yadav-led Samawadi government faced severe criticism, and this macabre discovery provided ammunition for opposition attacks. The timing was particularly damaging. The bodies surfaced just one day before Makar Sankranta, a major Hindu festival when millions take holy dips in the Ganges. Director General of Police A.K. Gupta ordered a comprehensive investigation, asking police to probe all angles before arriving at a conclusion. However, no evidence of foul play or political conspiracy was ever publicly revealed. To understand the Unnao incident, one must grasp the Ganges' dual role as both India's holiest river and one of its most polluted waterways. The 2,500-kilometer river sustains approximately 37% of India's population, hundreds of millions who depend on it for drinking water, irrigation, bathing, and spiritual ceremonies. Yet the Ganges suffers catastrophic pollution from industrial waste, farm pesticides, and raw sewage from cities along its banks. In 1988, the Supreme Court of India declared it illegal to immerse corpses in the Ganges. Despite this ruling, the practice continues unabated, driven by religious belief and economic necessity. In Varanasi, the temple town downstream from Unnao, 60,000 people bathe daily in the river while bodies are continuously brought from distant places for immersion. One report noted that every day, more than 24 corpses are illegally immersed in the river in Varanasi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had made cleaning the Ganges a central electoral promise in 2014. The Unnao incident occurred less than a year into this cleanup initiative, exposing how little had changed despite massive budgets and political promises. On January 14, 2015, the day after the bodies were discovered, the Supreme Court of India took suo moto notice and criticized the poor progress of the Ganga Action Plan. The court was told work might be completed by 2018. With 118 towns identified for sewage treatment plants, the horror didn't end with the 104 floating bodies. On January 29, 2015, barely 2 weeks later, another macabre discovery triggered fresh panic. Painters working inside the reserve police lines in Unnao peered through a broken window and saw what they thought were human remains. Police opened the room to find over 100 human skeletons and 400 viscera. Samples dumped in 22 to 25 sacks scattered throughout. The room, located opposite police quarters and the women's police station, had been part of a police hospital and post-mortem facility that operated until 2008. IG Law and Order Satish Ganesh explained that the room had been used to store viscera samples and unidentified mutilated bodies, sent for post-mortem that had to be preserved based on court orders. The building had been condemned and marked for demolition, but the remains accumulated over 20 to 25 years had never been properly disposed of. While technically unrelated to the floating bodies, the timing created the impression that Unnao was drowning in a sea of forgotten dead victims of poverty, bureaucratic neglect, and systemic failure to treat human remains with dignity. The official narrative that dropping water levels exposed previously buried or sunken bodies makes scientific sense. River levels fluctuate seasonally, and shallow graves along unstable riverbanks could easily be disturbed by changing water flows. However, questions linger. Why did 104 bodies surface simultaneously in one location? If these were accumulated over months or years, why weren't smaller numbers discovered earlier? And why were most victims children and unmarried girls, a statistically unusual concentration? The BBC noted that while bodies regularly float in the Ganges, this is a rare instance when so many bodies have turned up in one place. Vice similarly observed, floating bodies are not out of the norm, but the high number of corpses at once is not quite as common. Some locals suggested an alternative theory that the bodies had been deliberately dumped by unscrupulous cremation workers or hospital staff disposing of unclaimed corpses. Others whispered darker possibilities: illegal organ harvesting, human trafficking victims, or casualties from unreported violence. The Unnao incident faded from headlines within weeks, replaced by other scandals. No comprehensive investigation report was publicly released. No individuals were charged with illegal disposal of bodies. The promised Ganga cleanup continues, decades behind schedule and trillions over budget. Yet the images from January 2015, stray dogs tearing at flesh, vultures circling corpses, JCB machines scooping skeletal remains from sacred waters became seared into India's collective memory. The photos would resurface repeatedly in 2021 when COVID-19 victims' bodies were found floating in the Ganges, with false claims, but evoking genuine memories. The incident crystallized uncomfortable truths: that poverty determines how you're treated in death, that the Ganges worshipped as Mother Ganga has become a dumping ground for societies forgotten, and that government promises mean little when cultural practices and bureaucratic indifference remain unchanged. Were these 104 bodies truly accumulated water burials surfacing due to natural causes? Or was something more sinister at play, whether political sabotage, criminal disposal, or systematic neglect? What do you think? Was it now a natural tragedy, exposing poverty's cruel mathematics, or evidence of something darker? Should water burial practices be banned entirely? Can the Ganges ever truly be cleaned while millions depend on it as both lifeline and final resting place? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this exploration of the Unnao Ganga mystery disturbed you, hit like, subscribe to Silent Conspiracy, and ring the bell.